For centuries, civilizations have stared into the skies at its mysteries in amazement. One celestial phenomenon ancient civilizations were obsessed with was the solar eclipse. Many in the past have tried to make sense of all its wonders, trying to explain its meaning. A tradition that has lived on for centuries as to this very day, staring at the stars looking for a deeper meaning, is still being practiced. In fact, many people are getting ready to do just that on April 8th, stare at the sky and witness the transformation of the bright sun become a dark void, what we call a solar eclipse. While the world is awaiting the upcoming total solar eclipse, I believe it's important we look at what the past civilizations believed the eclipse represented. In almost all ancient worlds, the eclipse represented something that they dreaded, a pending doom. Hey guys, I hope all is well. Welcome to The Truth Is, where I drop new videos every other day exposing the truth. In today's episode, we will be talking about the total solar eclipse on April 8th. Let's get right into it. For the last few days, people have been excited about this total solar eclipse. The eclipse is expected to appear in the sky on April 8th, starting in Mexico, making its way through the US, and ending in Canada. It is being reported that the eclipse is expected to darken the skies in the areas it's passing through during the middle of the day. According to NASA, a total solar eclipse happens when the moon passes between the sun and Earth, completely blocking the face of the sun. The sky will darken as if it were dawn or dusk. This total eclipse is seen as a very special one by those in the astronomy community, due to the fact that the world won't see another one for at least 2 decades. According to astronomers, the next total solar eclipse won't happen again until 2044. While most people can't wait for April 8th, others online are concerned about the eclipse for a strange reason. On April 8th, people really aren't expecting much out of the ordinary, besides the fact that the skies will turn black for a few minutes. Or so they thought, as according to many state emergency officials, they are expecting areas to be affected severely by the eclipse, believing something catastrophic could happen. According to Fox News, several states and some Texas counties that will be in the path of totality during the April solar eclipse have issued warnings and a state of emergency ahead of the event. They are advising citizens in Texas, Oklahoma, Ohio, Indiana, and New York to either shelter in place during the eclipse or in some states to stock up on emergency supplies, food, and water. They're also warning about the possibility of loss of cell service, power, and other possible interruptions. Many are finding this all too strange as to why emergency officials are declaring a state of emergency over a solar eclipse. Even FEMA are sending out disasters assistant notices for April 8th.
So I stopped into work to get a 15-piece nugget, and there's this on the front desk. FEMA has stopped by to give us a disaster assistance notice with the deadline of April 8th. That's strange. That's the same day as the solar eclipse, and everyone's freaking out about it.
And also, it's being reported that even the National Guard is going to be deployed in response to the solar eclipse.
Also new at 5, we are less than a month away from a total solar eclipse, and now the National Guard is being called in to help with all the extra tourists. McCurtain County requested the help as thousands of people are expected to flood into southeastern Oklahoma to see that eclipse. Officials in McCurtain County, with a population of 30,000, expect upwards of 100,000 people to visit, which could put an obvious strain on resources. The Oklahoma Highway Patrol and Choctaw Nation are also helping prepare. It'll be a busy time for sure.
Boy, it is.
Why are they warning people to get out and get supplies or to shelter in place if it's only supposed to darken the sky? These precautions emergency officials are recommending don't match those made during previous total solar eclipses. If we look at the tips given to prepare for the eclipse that was expected back in 2017, we see a whole different set of recommendations. All they recommended was that people kept their headlights on, put the sun visor down to block the view, do not wear the eclipse glasses while driving, and do not try to photograph or video the eclipse. They also recommended that the people exit the roadway and park in a safe area to view the eclipse. While this year, they are declaring a full-on state of emergency, telling people to grab emergency supplies like they're expecting something crazy to happen. This is simply not adding up to me and to many others. If we listen to this news clip from a Texas station that asks an emergency official about why they made the declaration, he claims it was declared a state of emergency to be prepared in case of a pending emergency.
The unknowns, not knowing how many people are coming, we could exhaust our resources really quick.
We are counting down to the total eclipse now less than a month away. Kendall County, the latest, issue a disaster declaration ahead of next month's total eclipse. At least 3 other counties in central Texas, along with the Hill Country, that are in the path of totality have already issued disaster declarations, include Bell County, Travis County, and Kirk County. While we are familiar with what a disaster declaration means for wildfire, maybe even severe weather, what do they mean when it comes to an eclipse? East for San Antonio, Stephanie Esquivel is getting answers tonight from local officials.
Issuing a disaster declaration ahead of next month's eclipse is a proactive measure Kendall County officials are taking to ensure enough resources are available in case of emergency.
We're not going to be able to rely on our regular mutual aid partners because they're coming from counties that are experiencing the same issues we are. So it just gives us a little bit better avenue to reach out for the state for additional resources or supplies or things like that should we need them.
Emergency Management Coordinator for Kendall County, Jeff Binks, says he wants to be prepared for any emergency that could arise.
Just what emergency are they expecting a solar eclipse to cause? Well, if we go back to ancient times, many pagan civilizations used to look at solar eclipses as a sign of pending doom. They believed that the eclipse was a symbol of the end times and that with its presence, great disasters would occur. These ancient pagan civilizations would perform rituals and sacrifices to the gods in response to the eclipse as they believed there was a sign from them, while other ancient civilizations saw the eclipse as a symbol of the planet going through a death and rebirth. This is what occultists to this day use an eclipse to represent. They perform special rituals for these occasions that could only be done under a solar eclipse. So April 8th is a day that will be well anticipated by occultists. Even in the Bible, it speaks of disasters following what seems to be a solar eclipse. In the Bible, it speaks of prophecies that are fulfilled by the presence of a total solar eclipse. In Acts 2:20, it states the sun will be turned to darkness and the moon to blood before the coming of the great and glorious day of the Lord. Many have interpreted this verse to be speaking about an eclipse being a sign of the second coming of Yeshua, or what most people know him by, Jesus Christ. We also see an interesting verse in Luke 21:25. There will be signs in the sun, moon, and stars. On the earth, nations will be in anguish and perplexity at the roaring and tossing of the sea. What greater sign in the sky than a total solar eclipse? Something else that people are pointing out is that the total solar eclipse is set to pass over 2 U.S. cities named Nineveh. Nineveh is actually a biblical name of a great fallen city that was full of wickedness. In the story of Jonah in the Bible, it speaks about the Lord appearing onto a man named Jonah. God ordered Jonah to travel to the great fallen city of Nineveh to preach against their sin. God wanted Jonah to tell the people of Nineveh who were worshiping false gods and sinning to repent for their sins. If not, he would destroy their great city. This total solar eclipse is set to pass over 2 cities that are named Nineveh, one in the state of Indiana and another in the state of Ohio. What's even more interesting about this is that in the Bible, it speaks of Christ declaring the sign of Jonah being a symbol of his return, stating in Matthew 12:39, "Then some of the scribes and Pharisees told Jesus, 'Teacher, we want to see a sign from you.' But he replied to them, 'An evil and adulterous generation craves a sign, yet no sign will be given to except the sign of the prophet Jonah. Because just as Jonah was in the stomach of the sea creature for 3 days and 3 nights, so the Son of Man will be in the heart of earth for 3 days and 3 nights.'" Considering that Christ makes it clear that in the time of his return, we will see the sign of the prophet Jonah, some people believe that the fact that the total solar eclipse is passing over these U.S. cities called Nineveh, and it will consume the moon and the sun, could indicate this being a biblical prophecy coming to fruition, a sign that something biblical is coming. Many people will agree that we're living in very evil and adulterous times. Many people have abandoned God and refuse to believe him off solely faith, demanding that he appears to them in order to believe. Add these biblical coincidences with the odd responses from emergency officials, and you will start to understand why people are concerned. With what I know about the occult, I know the significance of the eclipse. The Masons often use the eclipse as a representation of the death and rebirth of the world. Most of you should be aware of the Masonic goal of a new world order. In order for a new world order to be born, the old order must die, and the new order will be reborn.
An historic moment. We have in this past year made great progress. We have before us the opportunity to forge for ourselves and for future generations a new world order.
Now's a time when things are shifting. There's going to be a new world order out there, and we've got to lead it.
The solar eclipse represents rebirth, which is what the central theme for this year's halftime show was. They had Usher wearing a phoenix pin on his outfit, which also represents a rebirth, while performing on the celestial sun, which is another symbol of rebirth. The sun then darkens, which indicates a solar eclipse, which is another symbol of rebirth. If you saw my video breaking down the halftime ritual, you would know that I made it clear the entire performance was an announcement of the coming new world. They were letting us know the time is coming, and they were showing us through symbolism. Before they show Usher on the celestial sun, they showed them on a ticking clock, which is a symbol of a pending doom. After the clock, we see he's on the celestial sun that turns dark. We must remember that the occult has always deeply cherished solar eclipse. They see it as a sacred day they perform their rituals on. The death and rebirth of the spiritual and physical order of life in itself is a ritual. The fact that Hollywood has been using heavy end times imagery since last year, it aligns with the concept of them preparing for the rebirth ritual they would use to bring in the New World Order. They knew this eclipse would take place on this date, and it appears that they have given this date much significance. While I don't think or know if anything physically would happen on April 8th, I do believe something spiritually will. It seems that they have been preparing for this total solar eclipse to mark this rebirth, signs that they have been showing us for a very long time. In fact, David Bowie's video Black Star is about the new world approaching, and the video starts with a total solar eclipse. Occultists have been pointing at this celestial event as the marker of their new world. The pagans believed the eclipse was a symbol of a pending doom and the rebirth of the planet. These occultists are modern pagans and are using it for the same purpose. While I am not saying anything will happen on April 8th, I am saying that I see all the same signs everyone with their eyes open can see. Something odd is definitely going on, and we're all going to witness it. I believe all the end times imagery they have been recently using ties in with all of this. The fact that we have been seeing people embody the Antichrist spirit, those like Kanye and Kendrick Lamar, presenting themselves like false Christ, and also the fact that these celebrities have been using 4 horsemen apocalypse imagery tells me a lot as well. I believe it all connects to this April 8th total solar eclipse, and it appears that they have symbolically chosen this eclipse to represent their rebirth. While the world might not see its effects immediately, eventually it will become apparent. Now, I will say, it has never been a better time for you to seek God and repent, as it appears the fateful hour is approaching. Well, that's it for this one, but before you guys go, I just wanted to ask you guys to like, comment, and share this video so that it would be recommended to others. I want to thank you all for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.